to strike now. Your friends are overlooking great players for 2022 fantasy football. If you don't believe me, see for yourself. Because a top 10% athlete of all time, who's only 24% owned, is often going undrafted. It's happening to the Bengals' second-year running back, Chris Evans. Let me explain why you want him before your friends catch on. As a rookie, Evans averaged 7.1 yards per touch. Now, this was on a small sample of just 32 touches. However, if he would have seen just a few more touches, he would have qualified and have ranked number one amongst running backs in efficiency. This is the leader from last year, Rashad Penny at 6.4. Again, Evans was at 7.1. And obviously, Joe Mixon is the starting running back out there for the Bengals, but there was 2 times last year as a rookie where Chris Evans played approximately 40% of the snaps. The first time was against the Detroit Lions in week 6. He goes out there, he scores 15.7 points, finishes as a top 20 back. And the second time was against the Browns. The first time he played the majority of the snaps at 55%. He goes out there and scores 15.9 points, finishes as a top 20 back. Now, here's why this matters. According to DraftShark's injury predictor tool, it takes into account a lot of information from the past to predict towards the future for similar aged backs with similar injuries. Joe Mixon has a 91% chance to miss a game next year. And based off of this tool, they are projecting him to miss 2.4 games, so 2 or 3 games. And if you're wondering, Mixon has only played a full season 1 time in his career. Now, you might be wondering, Sal, what about Samaje Perine? He's been the backup there the last few years. Yes, but that was until Chris Evans came and was highly efficient last year. Samaje Perine is not somebody who's going to be dynamic. He's not an all-purpose back in the receiving game, and last year he ranked 40th in true yards per carry, a running back efficiency metric. So he was outside of being average. He was well below that. He was nowhere near the number 1 overall rate that you saw for Chris Evans. So yes, there's a chance that Perine can block Evans, especially early in the season. But at this point in the draft, I'm looking for running backs who have upside, and Chris Evans is that guy, especially because of the receiving game role in like the 18th rounds of drafts when he's going around guys like Trey Sermon, who didn't even play last year, and Chuba Hubbard, who's a 3rd string on his team now on a bad offense. Now this next guy, a wide receiver, is somehow going in the 17th round of drafts. Devin Duvernay is currently the number 2 wide receiver on the Baltimore Ravens. And not only is he the number 2 receiver, they only currently have 5 total wide receivers on the depth chart, and the 3 wide receivers behind Duvernay have just a career 19 NFL receptions. And you may not know this, but Duvernay is an elite athlete. I'm talking top 6% speed of all time at the NFL Combine, running a 4.39 40. And the following proves that he's a master at his craft. In his second year, Devin Duvernay was asked to play a lot of special teams, mainly special teams. There was Hollywood Brown still there, Rashad Bateman was a rookie, and Sammy Watkins, when he was healthy, was operating as a starting receiver. So as a wide receiver 4 and primarily a special teams captain, what did he do? Oh, well, he ended up making first team All-Pro and the Pro Bowl as a special teamer in just his second year in the league. But that's not all, because Hollywood Brown is now gone. He's been shipped out to Arizona, and Duvernay, in his 2 years in the league, has played 1 game without Hollywood Brown, and he saw a career-high 7 targets in this game and 83% more fantasy points. Now, you may not believe me, but this next guy has top 5 upside at his position, but he goes in round 18. Let me explain. So Rob Gronkowski has not confirmed playing in 2022, and no, Gronk is not the guy going in round 18. He goes in like round 10, and that's assuming he's going to play this year. But what if he doesn't? If he doesn't, Cam Brate is easily the number 1 tight end value in all of fantasy football. Let's discuss. Last year, Rob Gronkowski had 89 targets. Now, this was 11th overall, but he missed some time. His 7.4 per game were 4th in the NFL amongst tight ends. Now, Tampa Bay threw so much that even with Gronk commanding that many targets, Cam Brate was still able to average 3.4 targets per game. And not only that, he saw 19 red zone targets, which was number 4 amongst all tight ends. It was 7 more than Gronk. So now imagine this. You live in a world where Gronk retires, doesn't play this year, and Cameron Brate immediately becomes Tom Brady's number 1 tight end. In an offense that led the league by a wide margin in passing last year, Brady over 42 times per game. Plus, Brady has not missed a game in the last 2 seasons, and he's only missed 3 games since 2017. Yet he goes outside the top 200 draft picks, and most of the time isn't even taken in drafts. And by the way, if you're curious at what I'm looking at right here, these are the average draft positions on UnderdogFantasy.com, and they have a contest where there's $2 million to first. It's open right now. $1 million to second place. $1 million to the highest scorer. And you can play on there right now. You could use my free rankings in the description below if you want. And when you use the code SAL, there's a link in the description. Your first deposit will be doubled. So if you put in 20, you get 40. If you put in 50, you get $100 Rooskies. To try and win this $2 million right here, again, the link's in the description. Use the code SAL. Now, let me tell you why you should draft this next guy, a 33-year-old wide receiver. So Julio Jones is a free agent, but he plans to play in 2022. And you're getting him as a steal right now, fellas. In the 17th round of drafts, he goes as the 194th player off the board. Now, let's discuss this, because Julio wants to go to a playoff contender, and this would imply that he's most likely playing with a good quarterback. So based off this information, mentioned, these will be his potential landing spots. First, there's the Indianapolis Colts, who just got Matt Ryan, who Julio played with. That's a big reason why he might have interest in going there. And if not for a collapse in week 18 versus the Jaguars, they would have made the playoffs last year, and Julio would instantly slot in as most likely the number 2 wide receiver on this team. Then there's the Tampa Bay Bucs, who are obviously playoff bound, who obviously have a good quarterback in Tom Brady, and they have some issues in the receiving core. Is Gronk going to play? Chris Godwin is going to miss the start of the season, and there's no Antonio Brown there. Another team that fits this mold is the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback and with no Devontae Adams there. And oh yeah, they lost also MVS. There's a chance that if Julio joined this team, he would immediately become the number 1 wide receiver. And it would make sense if he went to a team we already talked about in the Ravens, because they don't have much depth. Just 5 guys. None of them have all that much experience, and he would immediately slot in as a wide receiver 2 here. And then another team who has showed interest is the Rams, and they basically show interest in everybody. Now, Julio's 2021 was limited by injuries, and you can see this all right here. All of this in 2021. It happened early in the year in September. He had this thigh and hamstring injury that literally hampered him all throughout the rest of the year, all the way into the playoffs in January. And you can see this in his game logs. He was healthy for the first 2 weeks of the season. He suffered the injury week 3. In week 1, he sees 6 targets, 6 fantasy points, okay. In week 2, he sees 8 targets, 128 yards, vintage Julio with a 19-point performance. And then he leaves week 3 against Indy early, only playing 49% of the snaps, and this started to spiral that injury. But as he finally got healthy to end the season and returned to playing his 70 to 80% of the snaps, Julio went out there in week 18, he scored 17 fantasy points. And then in the playoffs, he went out there and he scored 12.2 points. These were top 15 wide receiver numbers to end the year. The wide receiver 6 in fantasy last year averaged 14.3 points per game. And in Julio's 4 healthy games, he averaged 14.5 points per game. So this is why you need to strike now. Once Julio ends up getting signed, and it's going to happen potentially any day now, he's going to go from being a 17th round pick, the 195th overall player, to jumping at least 3 rounds in drafts. So you might as well get him before he rises. Now, these are just 4 players that are basically going undrafted. Your friends don't even care about mistakenly. But if you want to see 5 running backs that have league-winning upside that your friends are overlooking in drafts, check out this video right here. Man, oh man, you're going to go into your drafts just ready to dominate all your friends with these information schmacks.